Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well, and today, my friends, we're back with a showdown here between the Empire and Chaos Dwarfs. It's going to be myself with Boris Todbringer facing off against a Tan the Black, coming in with a Death Streak rocket, most likely to counter a Luminark, I would imagine. On maps like Black Ark and some of these bigger maps, so the Chaos Dwarfs can very effectively use the Death Streak rocket launchers to counter Empire SEs, right? So it can shoot at wagons, it can shoot at your Boris Todbringer type characters, Karl Franz, and it also is very, very good against the Temple off Luminark, but I figured he was going to be bringing this. We had just played a game where I had played the Chaos Dwarves against his Empire, and my Death Streak had essentially killed his Luminark, so I was kind of expecting something back here. So I did come in still with the Temple off Luminark, but to support it, we do also have a Deathcaster with the Overcast Spirit Leech, so we can get it from downtown and try and finish it off a little bit quicker. And of course, Boris Todbringer and some wagons, which can close the distance and maybe put some pressure on. Sunmaker is a staple against Chaos Dwarfs as well. It's very good, just like it is against Dwarves. It can take care of their Chaos Dwarf infantry. Otherwise, it's kind of tough to do for the Empire. Grenade launchers kind of can, but they still have a fair amount of armor. Now for Platypus over here, he's going to be coming in with Zatan the Black, backed up by Chaos Dwarf Warriors in the front line, so kind of playing it somewhat like the Dwarf matchup in a way, with a lot of Dwarven armor, a couple Hobgoblin Archers, which is cool. They, of course, will be okay against like State Troopers. You don't really need like the hard-hitting blunderbusses. And Infernal Ironsworn, though, I think are actually good against Empire, like as a backline sweeper to deal with like Empire Cab diving deep into your lines and whatnot. But Hobgoblin Archers in the back, and Zatan the Black up in the sky with his net. Caster is going to be a Hashut caster who's going to be using the Flames of Asgoro. And this is a very good spell against blobs. Like, so any sort of infantry, going to get karate shot pretty bad. Back here, Death Streak Rocket Launcher. Its anti-large mode is very good. Its infantry mode, not amazing, but it is going to be shooting into my wagons initially. Most likely see some of those wagons starting to pay the troll toll. As a Sunmaker, of course, going after Chaos Dwarf Warriors, who are only 650, so it's not like a super expensive grab, but overall, they get the job done. So Chaos Dwarfs do like to use characters like Astergoth on foot, obviously, so wagons will be able to kind of kite and shoot him. So I think wagons are very much a staple here, considering that the Chaos Dwarfs don't have like a huge prevalence of long-range armor-piercing guns, so wagons are typically pretty safe. Rockets getting in there, but the Luminark from downtown with a huge shot against the Death Streak. This thing got popped in the face, and we also overcast the Spirit Leech, and you can see it's already wavering. It's going to be trying to run, but the Luminark's got a recent buff, and they're pretty good. I would say they're price appropriate, and they do some good damage. So the second shot coming in, and the Death Streak is going to be offline, and now it's shattered. So that was the first part of our game plan. I was like 90% sure Death Streak was going to be in the game, and if Magma Cannons had been brought as well, they would suffer the same fate. The Temple off Luminark, Overcast Spirit Leech, Boris Todbringer, and wagons poking them would be able to shut down the Magma Cannons. You'll notice how I didn't start with like really good infantry quality. We just have a couple Spearmen here because I didn't want to give good targets for the dreaded Magma Cannons, which are very, very strong, but you can't counter them with the Empire, I would say. So, back here, we do have Boris Todbringer retreating, and the Chaos Dwarfs are going to be pushing up, and I can't tell you how many games against the Dwarves I've had where I've been up like 6-7k value, or maybe not that much, maybe like 3,000 or 4,000, and they're still able to push you with their armor as the Empire. So I'm trying to get ground as quickly as possible. We have grenade launchers moving up to the high ground here, going to be dropping some sick beats here on the Chaos Dwarf Warrior. Spirit Leech caster sitting nearby, going to be trying to Spirit Leech the good quality infantry. But Toddy should be pretty disruptive here. He does have a leadership discouraging effect, and one of the weaknesses I've noticed for the Chaos Dwarves is the fact that they don't have the best leadership. Their Chaos Dwarf infantry is okay, but their labor units, Hobgoblins, have god-awful leadership. So Boris Todbringer does -12 leadership to nearby units with the Blood Roar and Crush the Weak. So yeah, he's really, really good against Chaos Dwarves. Going to be efficient at breaking their formations. You can see these Chaos Dwarves immediately buckle. And the middle objective is going to be going under our control as these Chaos Dwarves are routed off. Now, War Wagon's moving up, just trying to screen out Zatan the Black. And he's really, really cautious. I basically just have the Temple off Luminark sitting on him, so it's occupying, I would imagine, a lot of micro for my opponent. He's having to dodge back and forth. Here comes another Luminark shot from downtown. I'm so glad they actually work. They've literally just not worked for years, and now that they actually do something, it's very nice. So it does hit Zatan and is able to get some nice work in. In the meantime, Sunmaker's still blasting. Side objective going to be taken by the Chaos Dwarfs, who do have Chaos Dwarf Warriors and Goblin Laborers, and Hobgoblins going to be swarming in from all directions, as the wagons and a couple swordsmen have been brought in. Swordsmen aren't a bad choice. They'll obviously lose to Dwarf Warriors, but if they're fighting against Hobgoblin type units, they trade pretty well for their stat line. So I do think that swordsmen are like a good rank and file. I wouldn't recommend greatswords. Greatswords are a little bit too vulnerable against monsters, Bull Centaur Renders, as well as some of the artillery that Chaos Dwarfs have. Sunmaker just deciding to friendly fire some swordsmen here. Classic stuff, taking some notes out of the Chaos Dwarf playbook, as you do grab control of the middle. Now you might be saying to yourself, 4.1 against 500 value? Well, this game is like going to be over soon. Well, fasten your seatbelts. That is indeed not the case. So Zentler's Reichsguard going to be coming out, looking to go for the high ground. Chaos Dwarf Warriors here. Going to get hammered pretty hard by a big charge, but they're pretty resilient against these type of things with their armor values and melee defense. But even still, the Zintler's Reichsguard able to get the full penetration because their formation was tattered, and those guys just get bullied down. Grenade launchers accidentally charging in some goblins there. I guess I was trying to Alpha Strike or something. I don't quite remember. But the middle objective still being held by the Sons of Sigmar, and the Sunmaker doing massive, massive damage as it continues pounding into the Chaos Dwarf Warriors here. And you can see Boris Todbringer getting those nice terror routes and leadership discouraging plays. Certainly not bad. So flank being held by Chaos Dwarf Warriors, and now we start to have some elites being brought in. So Infernal Guard are, they're not quite like Ironbreaker tier. Well, I mean, I suppose they're pretty close. Ironbreakers are a little bit more resilient, but Infernal Guard only costs like 1,000 gold. So they're kind of like in between Longbeard and an Ironbreaker in terms of like quality. The Infernal Ironsworn are like the Ironbreaker variant that has the hand grenades, which are pretty good. But these guys are going to be very tough to remove for my unit composition. Wagons, of course, can do well against them. Sunmaker is really going to have to put a lot of this game on its back if I really, really want to be able to close this one out quickly. Because you'll notice, like, I'm still not, despite being up this much, my build was a little bit weird in that, you know, I have a Luminark back here, I have Toddy, I have Wagons, I have a lot of single entities, including an expensive artillery piece, which has been unsummoned just now. So yeah, like I don't have like really good capturing potential. I have really good value trading, but not good capturing potential. So we did summon out the Granite Guard. Granite Guard are the shotgun variant with the slowing effect. I am kind of on the fence about them. They have a suppression, but honestly, I feel like they're just kind of mediocre compared to the Infernal Guard, which cost about the same. The Infernal Guard with the Fire Glaives have anti-large halberds and longer range shooting, so I think they're just objectively better. Well, I guess the range on these guys is 126. What's giving them that range buff? Oh, it's the dig inability. Okay, so they're getting buffed by one of the nearby characters here, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Oh, or maybe it's one of their... Oh, no, that's their baseline ability. If they're standing still, they get the dig in. Okay, so they do have that one. But nonetheless, the Infernal Guard with the Fire Glaives have the halberd, so they can fight off like Empire Cav pretty well. Now on the side, it's getting a little bit scary. We have the Infernal Guard moving in, Hobgoblin Wolf Riders trying to chase down my grenade launchers. I summoned in some Empire Knights to try and deal with them. And now the Flames of Asgoro going to be punishing some swordsmen here, but shouldn't be too devastating. I mean, they're just swordsmen, so... It does do good damage, but it's like literally a 300 gold unit. Not the end of the world. Looking to value 6,000 to 3,000, so Chaos Dwarf starting to get a little bit of momentum. Now that the Sunmaker is off the battlefield, my anti-infantry capabilities are heavily diminished, as these Empire Knights going to be riding out for Sigmar, baby, or Ulrich. I guess Boris Todbringer is leading the army, as the Empire Captain's going to be sallying forth to jump on objective number 3. And back here, we get the Zintler's Reichsguard moving in, hammering through these Chaos Dwarf Warriors. And in the middle, Demon Smith Sorcerer of Hashut, continuing to use his crowd clearing abilities on my infantry, while Boris Todbringer just basically farms the Granite Guard here. Granite Guard have okay stats in melee, actually, 25-41, and that's when they're debuffed, but even still, against like a big powerful character like Toddy, not going to be able to do the trick. It really puts things in perspective when you look at like Toddy, who has like 5,500 HP on like a huge war beast, and then like Astrogoth has like 8k on his like robo legs. It's pretty crazy. Granted, Toddy would do pretty good against Astrogoth with Spirit Leech support, and that was kind of my whole game plan. I was expecting Astro Chad. I think Wagons, Boris, and Spirit Leech Spam could probably kill him, and it would be pretty effective, especially with the leadership discouraging. You'd probably be able to break him, but Empire Knights coming from the high ground here. Going to be running into the Hobgoblin Archers, and a big, big downhill charge for Sigmar there, as many of those Hobgoblins are punted into another dimension. And basic Empire Knights, you would think like in the Dwarf matchup, they're not like super amazing, but against Chaos Dwarves, they're going to have their Chaos Dwarf units, but a lot of Hobgoblins, and their mobility is typically going to be lightly armored, so Empire Knights do a pretty good job. Now, here we get a surround on some Dwarfs on the side, so we do get the Empire Knights and Captains of Free Company Militia. We got a full surround on them, so they eventually will be broken down by the sheer mass of Sigmarite manliness over here. But he does summon in some Bull Centaur Renders. Now, this was a big problem. I felt as if I didn't have any answers for them, which I really didn't. I resummoned in the Sunmaker, so that was my big expense to get that back online to remove the infantry here. He still has the 2 objectives, has a little bit of a points lead on me, so I was starting to feel the pressure. He doesn't have any healing, so the value is pretty true, and I don't have any healing either, so it is indeed a true value. I pull back these Empire Knights knowing that the Bull Centaurs are going to be just going absolutely ham here, while the Sunmaker just keeps making the sun rain here on the middle. It certainly didn't hear no bell. All I have is one wagon. The wagon is one of the only answers against Bull Centaur, so I've been talking to a lot of folks and hearing a lot of people say that, you know, Bull Centaurs are just, oh my god, look at this testing video where a Bull Centaur just like dumpsters a Demogryph Knight. Well, okay, Bull Centaurs do have light armor and they only have 62 speed. Like, in my opinion, in the actual, you know, perspective of a real battle and not like just a mindless test where 2 units run at one another, like, yes, Demogryph Knights will lose in a straight up fight against Bull Centaur Renders, but you have many combined arms tools and healing to deal with them, and the speed advantage. So you just kind of want to drag them around and make them fight, you know, inefficient targets, and then Alpha Strike when you're ready. That's how a combined arms faction like the Empire should play. I personally don't feel that Bull Centaurs need any sort of nerfing. Yeah, they're really, really strong, but, you know, if you're going to be comparing them to Dragon Ogres, like, oh, look how much better they are than Dragon Ogres, that's true. And I do think that Dragon Ogres are a unit that probably needs a buff. But even still, Empire Knight's going to be running away, and we start beginning that strategy of just draining down the Bull Centaur Renders, who are going to be coming in and getting their ideal target. So I actually got suppressed here because these Granite Guard came back in. I didn't notice. So Toddy got suppressed, and the Bull Centaurs with their huge anti-large attacks going to be able to probably drag down Toddy, considering he had the suppression on him. He's not going to escape very easily. So now I start to resummon in wagons, knowing that they're going to be the concentrated answer I need against the Bull Centaur Renders. Toddbringer might be able to get away. It's going to be close. Granite Guard just machine gunning him, and you can see even with a little bit of HP, they did get the job done. So it's still a really cool ROR. I can't help but think that the Infernal Ironsworn are just way better. Toddy does get back up in the sky. Thankfully for me, the Bull Centaurs were not able to close the job. Outriders with grenade launchers just sweeping. We did take control of the top objective. It was a little Chaos Dwarf Warrior battle up there, as the Sunmaker in the backfield does rain some hot fire into this Infernal Guard, and our Spirit Leech caster are going to be dropping pretty much every Spirit Leech we have. So you can see the Chaos Dwarfs have done a really good job getting back in the game. It's only more or less a 2,000 value difference right now, which is close enough, and they still have many of the same tools that the Dwarves have, which make it hard for the Empire. So as far as the matchup goes, I would say a lot of it's going to be map dependent. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. He summons in the Deathstreak rocket, and you can see Deathstreak is a really nice tech against the Empire, and now that my Luminark is gone, the Deathstreak rocket basically just going to be sitting on these war wagons and doing good work and picking off models. So well played to my opponent there as the Empire Knights keep cleaning up. More Empire Knights here, and I did summon in some Demogryph Knights if I'm not mistaken, or at least I will be in just a moment. So Demogryph Knights are coming out. This is what you're here for, baby. Some of the coolest cav in the entire game. So looking at their stats, yeah, they have a higher model count than the Bull Centaurs, but they do lose that fight. At least in the anecdotal testing that I've seen. But even still, they have a big mobility advantage. They have 75 speed against 62, and they have heavy armor, so they're more resilient against small arms fire compared to the Bull Centaurs, who can even take a bit of damage from like Free Company Militia. But this is going to be bad. There's some Chaos Dwarfs here, some Infernal Guard, mind you. And these floppy hats, as strong and cool as they are not going to be saving them. Boris Hodbringer is nearby. He was able to come back, so he rallied and is running away. But unfortunately, Platypus here is going to be using the Deathstreak rocket to go after Boris, and he is going to be taking a bit of a pounding there, so certainly feels bad. So top ground objective basically lost. Bull Centaur Renders able to move up there, and the Empire Knights going to be saturating into the back of the Granite Guard, so finally able to take down these guns, finish the job that Boris Todbringer started, and there they go. It's pretty funny how when they lance in, sometimes they use their arm instead of their bodies to lance. That would totally probably rip off a limb or break their shoulders. But anyways, Boris Todbringer, 900 HP. Demogryph Knights just hiding very cautiously in the trees. I knew their time would come. If they needed to fight the Bull Centaur Renders, but I'm like, let's just use the wagons. Let's wear them down the old-fashioned way. On the side point, Valiant Sigmarite holding, as we do have the Spearmen with shields and some grenade launchers here, as well as the Empire Captain, who's a really good choice. Empire Captains are great. They cost only 350 gold, and they have good armor and decent combat stats. They're not as good as Gorda's Backstabber, which the Chaos Dwarfs have. But he's like a legendary hero character, right? So he does work. A couple Dwarves trying to push into the backfield. Demogryph Knights, even with halberds, are a pretty good anti-infantry monster, or monstrous cav. So they just tear through those Dwarves, and you can see that the Infernal Guard going to be going down pretty quickly to the wrath of the Demogryph Knights as the Sunmaker continues making it rain. Now, the objectives down here, this top one is being stolen right now by the Chaos Dwarves. Some Infernal Ironsworn still remain, or Infernal Guard. But a couple of Brave Spearmen, talk about a mismatch here. Although they have the numbers, so they might be able to win this. But they're going to move in and keep the objective from being captured and flip that one back. I do also have the remnants of some tattered Knightly Orders moving in and more Swordsmen. So the Man-Tide is descending upon the Chaos Dwarfs here. Now, wagons still shooting in, blasting into the Bull Centaur Renders, and Demogryph Knights able to sweep up those Infernal Guard in the backfield. So I do think Demis are I would always bring one in this matchup. I think they bring a lot of utility to the battlefield and can be good against a number of the monsters. And if you need something to catch a Bull Centaur that's overextended into your lines, I think Demogryph Knights are pretty okay at that job. Granted, wagons and fighting them at a distance is always safer, but there will come a time when you have to get in there and go fisticuffs, right? So we move into the middle objective thinking maybe I can get it. He does have some Hobgoblin Archers and Goblin Laborers on their way up, as well as Chaos Dwarf Warriors, and his Bull Centaur Renders just trying to stay out of range of my wagons, even though I can move them up pretty close. We have a second wagon wave coming in, but the Deathstreak rocket has been very effective this game, although he put it in the trees, and it looks like it's able to shoot up and over, so clever stuff right there as the Deathstreak gets the work done. Only 500 value so far, but it has killed several wagon models, and it might get another one there. No, it does not. So the Bull Centaurs come in, and this is what I'm talking about. They're super slow. You can see them coming from a mile away. If that was like a Slanesh Cavalry unit or any other anti-large unit, they would have been able to jump on the Demogryph Knights in combat. So yeah, you can see kind of they're very, very strong and very meaty, but yeah, they're slow as hell. 60 speed is, they kind of I was having an interesting discussion with Dog Person, who's a Beastman player, and he's like, when I play with Bull Centaur Renders, which I think they're an insanely good unit, don't get me wrong, I think Bull Centaurs are crazy strong. And they're like borderline, you know, but I think they kind of are like Minotaurs. And Minotaurs are crazy good right now, too. And they function in a very similar fashion. He had a really good point about that. So this is something for those of you guys who are a little bit newer to Domination. If somebody sends one elite infantry unit to try and steal your objective, what you do is you just kind of, especially with Dwarves, they have 26 speed and I have 30 on my state troopers here. You can just kind of kite them a little bit. So I send in some Empire Knights to distract them, and I'm just like running my swordsmen away from the Immortals, which he brought in. And then we're going to be saving up to summon in the Sunmaker. So the Sunmaker will be making it rain. I thought about using Demi Halberds, but these guys have crazy, crazy good stats and probably would be able to win that fight. Now, Bull Centaurs haven't been able to do a whole lot. The value's probably not terrible, 800, but they do cost, you know, about 1,500 or 1,450 for the Great Weapon variant here. So they're not having a good time, as they're going to be getting hit with another Spirit Leech, getting taken down by the wagons. And here on the backside, we do see a couple Free Company Militia ripping shots into the Immortals. And we're still able to kind of hold on to the point. They can't get that capture weight. And the Sunmaker, I summon over here this time, so it would have a direct line of fire. And if he had some sort of anti-artillery, it would be hard for him to get them. So big shots, nope, swing and a miss. So that can happen sometimes. As you can see, we keep running in circles, trying to kite these guys out and use our heavy artillery to drag them down. Now, value is looking pretty similar, about 3,000 give or take, so it hasn't changed much since we looked before. The Brave State Troopers holding here. We do have the Empire Captain providing the encouragement aura, so he does have the baseline encourage, which is just gives like a couple leadership. So if you look at the stat line of these Brave State Troopers, they have encouraged by nearby units, so +3 leadership. Not bad, not insignificant. Can be the difference between breaking and standing at times. So Demi's coming down from the high ground, moving into the Chaos Dwarf Warriors as the wagons continue to screen out the Bull Centaurs. So the Bull Centaur Render is going to be sent to the hills. So we just avoided them basically, and they were taken down. Granted, I think Bull Centaurs are still a very good unit against the Empire. I would recommend bringing the anti-large variant just like he did. But yeah, like if you don't have the artillery or range advantage with Chaos Dwarves and like you're the one having to chase with them, it can be they can be put in situations like this. So Immortals getting Spirit Leeched, and now they are finally able to catch some swordsmen, so I'm sure they're going to be quite excited about that. Spearmen going to be holding on to the point, while in the middle, the wagons now move, providing their 9 capture weight, which was what they should have, if I'm not mistaken. Demogryph Knights with Halberds helping chew through some of the Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Granted, these guys with their 45 melee defense, able to hold up against the 34 melee attack of the Demogryph Knight Halberds pretty well. Chaos Dwarf Infantry, certainly pretty stalwart. Makes me think I maybe should have gone for the Terror-causing variant, because Chaos Dwarfs are a faction that's very, very vulnerable to Chaos, well, Chaos, of course, makes sense. But they're very vulnerable against the, Terror routes, all that stuff. Now, side point, this is pretty big. It's still a really, really close game. We're to the almost to the point where we could win on one, but I do have some State Troopers holding here with the Empire Captain, and some Knights of Sigmar have made it over here. And you always, if you're playing Empire, want to bring a couple of Free Company Militia. Really, really good to have a Vanguard unit that, of course, can put pressure on Hobgoblins and any sort of Chaos Dwarf monsters, all of whom have like 50 or 60 armor. So Free Company Militia going to be hustling up. And it looks like we'll barely be able to hold on to this one. As I bring the wagons over, I almost had the middle capped, but this was like more, I think, important. I felt like he was sending all of his stuff to the middle. So if I could just maintain the outsides. The Chaos Dwarves still suffer from that same problem that Dwarves do of being very slow. I mean, they have more mobility, so it's not quite as bad. But like sometimes you're like, oh man, I can't get anything of good quality to these points outside of Dwarf Infantry, which are really, really slow, right? Demogryph Knights moving up to attack the Immortals. This was a misplay on my part. Going to be giving my opponent a little bit of value, but they still get punted by the mighty birds of Sigmar. But many of these Demogryph Knights most likely going to be dragged down. Granted, their 125 armor will help them get a bit against the Immortals, and another Deathstreaker rocket. So some people were wondering how Deathstreakers are against cavalry. The less models in a unit, the better the Deathstreak. So against Monsters Cavalry, like Skystriders for Ogre Kingdoms, for example, I would even maybe consider bringing a Deathstreaker against the Ogre Kingdoms, because it'll counter all their Scrap Launcher type units, and also can do well against Skystriders. Yeah, Deathstreaker over a Magma Cannon in that matchup, 100%. So Demis do get folded, unfortunately. The Deathstreaker rocket able to do some really, really good work. We hold on to the side objective. We're sitting at 1372 in terms of points, and we are going to be reinforcing. The Sunmaker had to move once again, so it's going to be going downtown against the Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Wagon to the middle, just kind of being a bit of a distraction. And it's mostly labor units coming here, so the Empire Knights should be able to couch those lances, lance those couches for the Empires. They run through, just massacring the labor units, which unsupported. Their baseline leadership is really low, and with Zaytan being gone, he just was unsummoned. But yeah, their base value is 32, so they're going to be folding up like a piece of paper, and that looks like it's going to be it. I don't see any way for Platy to come back here. GG, well played. And you know what? It was a really rough start for him, losing his Deathstreaker and having Zatan basically do nothing. And he still stayed in that game and did very well. So just a testament to how good of a player he is. But on that same note, yeah, it's I do think the matchup is still kind of can go either way. I have another replay of this matchup coming in a couple days, which was played between Platy and myself, which I played Chaos Dwarfs against his Empire, which was also very interesting. Illustrates some of the nuances of the matchup. So you can see, like, Yeah, it's an interesting one. I like it. When I first played it, I started to feel like, oh, maybe this is Empire favored. But the more I've been playing it, like the fact that I was able to really just absolutely shut his core down so hard in the beginning, Zaytan with 0 value, Deathstreaker basically doing nothing in its first life, and he still was able to kind of really make it that tight of a game, makes me think that you're going to suffer many of the same problems that the Empire suffers against Dwarves. Not to the same extent. I would say this matchup's way better for the Empire. Could even be closer to a 50-50 matchup. But yeah, it's tricky because if you go Empire and you go cannons, if Chaos Dwarfs go double magmas, 2 magmas will outtrade 2 Empire cannons. But if you go double cannon plus Luminark, you can outtrade. But if you don't have the Sunmaker, it's really tough to deal with Chaos Dwarf infantry. Like really, really tough. So yeah, a lot of nuances. Very interesting matchup. You could also just switch up your lore magic. I wanted to win the artillery duel, but you could just go like Ulrika with Pit of Shades as your lord, and that's what Platy does in our other game. And the Pit of Shades is very good against Dwarf infantry. So yeah, it was a fun one. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. The Granite Guard still did pretty good. I think they got summoned twice, so I'm not sure. But maybe eat my words a little bit. I still like the Halberds a little bit better in this matchup, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Well played to my opponent. We'll see you all on the other side.